So this first one I'm going to read is from NBC News. Everyone be prepared. You're going to be shocked. This is the headline. Texas attorney who poisoned pregnant wife with abortion medication sentenced to, I'll wait a second, you say, how long do you think this gentleman who, let me read it again, poisoned pregnant wife with abortion medication, everyone pause, how long do you think he got sentenced to jail? I'll give you a minute. 180 days in jail. Here we go. Mason Herring's estranged wife told a court that her now 1-year-old daughter has developmental delays and attends therapy 8 times a week. A Texas attorney who pleaded guilty to slipping abortion medication into his pregnant wife's drinks was sentenced to 180 days in jail. Catherine Herring, the estranged wife of Mason Herring, told a Harrison County court Wednesday that the sentence was not strict enough. Their now 1-year-old daughter has developmental delays and attends therapy 8 times a week. Quote, I do not believe that 180 days is justice for attempting to kill your child 7 separate times. He's accused of drugging her drink.
7 times?
Yes. He is accused of drugging her drinks he gave to his wife of 11 years after learning in 2022 that she was pregnant with their 3rd child. A complainant states that at the time the pair was separated but had agreed to attend couples counseling. She told the police that during a counseling session, she told her husband about the pregnancy and he had a negative reaction. And after that evening, he sent her text messages expressing that he was not happy about the pregnancy and did not know what to do. He allegedly told her that the pregnancy would ruin his plans and make him look like a jerk. Their counselor suggested the two spend spring break apart. The wife told authorities that her husband began to talk to her about her hydration and how she needed to drink more water. On March 17, 2022, he brought her breakfast and water and said he would not leave until she drank the whole cup, according to the complainant. She noticed that the water looked cloudy, but her husband said it's because the cup or pipes were dirty. After drinking the beverage, she became severely ill and experienced cramping. She began to bleed and she went to the emergency room. Suspecting that her husband was trying to poison her, Catherine Herring said she set up cameras around the house. She told police that on 6 other occasions, he gave her beverages mixed with abortion medication, but she did not drink them. She also gave authorities videos that showed Mason Herring mixing a substance into her drink and throwing away trash from his car. She told authorities that she went through the discarded trash and found packaging for a medication that contained misoprostol. We've talked about this on that podcast, which is used to induce abortion. Mason Herring, who was a Houston attorney, according to the AP, was initially charged with felony assault to induce abortion. He accepted a plea agreement on charges of injury to a child and assault of a pregnant person. In addition to 180 days in jail, a judge ordered him to 10 years of probation and barred him from having contact with his estranged wife and their 1-year-old daughter. Now, everyone take a minute to let that sink in. You want me to go first or do you want to go first?
You can go first on this one. I keep going first.
Okay. I don't mind. Okay. I saw this headline on Twitter and I was like, oh, okay. I'm misunderstanding the headline. There has to be more to this. Like, this is impossible. No, I read the story and it is true. This person tried to drug his pregnant wife with abortion pills, and just only got 180 days in jail. So the first thing I want to say is, like, that is absolutely diabolical. That is so disgusting. And then his argument was it would ruin his plans and make him look like a jerk. This is in quotes, by the way. Would ruin his plans and make him look like a jerk. So that means he said that to her in a text message. And that's just so, I mean, what a terrible human being. Good on her for, like, you know, having the cameras. Good on her for, you know, realizing something's off and not drinking the other drinks. That is good discernment on her part. And I'm so glad that he cannot have contact with her. And as much as I think children need their fathers, I do think this is an example of a man not being a man. And that 1-year-old daughter, like, he tried to kill her. that 1-year-old daughter does not need to be around this man. I also think, and this kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier about like people's view of humanity. I also think like the fact that you would do this to your own child just says so much, like such a low view that he has of children and such a low view he has of her. He was essentially he was poisoning the child and he was poisoning her. I just can't imagine like what could have happened that would make someone, do that or like be like that. That's just so crazy to me. This is just such a wild story, and he got such a very low sentencing when we have, which is the story that's connected, we have pro-lifers that are praying out, and they, are in jail for 10 years, or pro-lifers that are peacefully sitting and then they go to jail for like 10 years. Like, it's just so crazy that this is how the justice system has panned out, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. What are you thinking?
Yeah. I mean, that story just shows abortion is a man's game. Like, this is just obvious. Like, well, first of all, a couple things, and I could be incorrect here, but I mean, abortion is illegal in Texas, and after 6 weeks, right?
Yes, they do have a weird thing about the pills. He can just go across. Well, I don't know.
That's the thing. All the states have a weird thing about the pills. Like, can. That's the issue that I have, is that, well, obviously, I mean, the issue is that there is abortion, but yeah, I know. I had a friend who wanted to see if it would happen. He ordered abortion pills to his house. Men aren't getting pregnant. How are men allowed to be ordering abortion pills? Like, you need no prescription. You need nothing. You can literally go online and order the abortion pills. And he did it 7 different times. Like, what? It's just, I mean, to anyone who wants to look at this with any sort of logic, and anyone who's saying this is a woman's right, at least make it so that only women can order the pills. Like, this is women, like, okay, like, at least, like, this is something that even pro-abortion people should agree with. This woman wanted her child. She was possibly going to have her child stripped away from her many, many times. She was hospitalized. Like, so the child survived this, so she must have probably only drinking, like, the first water. But
and,
so
it probably wasn't as, sorry, really quick, it probably wasn't as potent in dropped in one. I don't know the full, but I'm guessing because it probably wasn't as potent in the first drop, and so the child does have developmental delays and has to be in therapy. So like that's the biggest problem, or like not the biggest problem. Like that's a point that she wanted to make, that like her child still was affected by almost dying. Yeah.
Well, and so it seems to me from the story that he was giving her the first pill, which basically strips the uterine lining and induces labor. And so that's probably what was happening. And so she's probably having contractions, having to go to the hospital. It's just, I mean, that is a wild story. It's wrong on so many levels. And the fact that he gets, what's 100 days? A couple months in prison for trying not once, but 7 times to murder your child. Like, why isn't this all over? Why isn't this completely banning abortion pills in the United States? Or at least making it so that a doctor has to give them to you. You can go online and order them. I can go online and order them right now. My husband could go online and order them right now, right? I'm 27 weeks pregnant, He could give them to me, and obviously they wouldn't work right, but they would really harm my child. Obviously, he would never do that.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, at the very, very least, men shouldn't have access to this. Come on. Like, if we're all about women's rights, this is stripping her of her rights. This is stripping her of her rights to have her child. Like, oh my gosh. There's so much wrong with this situation. I hadn't heard about that. When did this happen? Just recently?
Yeah, this is recently, which is also crazy to me. And I hate to be like, why? I hate when people go, why isn't anybody talking about it? Because, if you don't know about it, you're not going to talk about it. But it's also kind of like, why isn't anybody talking about this? Why did I have to read this on Twitter?
Yeah.
So yeah, this happened. Let me see. This happened. No, that's the other story. This happened. I think like last Friday maybe, or like this week. February. Oh, this article I'm reading is from February 9th. So I think it happened like 2 days ago, but like still, when they were on trial, in my head, I'm like, why? Or when he was arrested, like this is something that you would think would be on the news when the person was arrested.
Right.
So it's just absolutely crazy story. And the reason why this is so crazy is because our next story I'm going to talk about are the 6 activists who were convicted of illegally blocking an abortion clinic in Tennessee. And, you know, these people are, so like he gets 180 days, which I'm sure he's going to get out early because good behavior, blah, blah, blah. That no one ever stays in jail for that right amount of time, for the amount of time they were given. So he's getting all this for attempted murder. And then these people who we're going to read what they've done that is just so terrible. And I'm actually going to be reading from the from AP News, and I'm going to read this because obviously they're not like pro-life, and I want to show like we're just going to show you how they are going to spin things, and then like even how what they're going to say. Like I looked at some of the wording they had. It still doesn't even sound that bad, and they're still like, oh wow, and they're getting how long? Okay, so this is from AP News. 6 activists convicted of illegally blocking an abortion clinic in Tennessee. A Tennessee jury has convicted 6 anti-abortion protesters of violating federal laws after they blocked the entrance of a reproductive clinic outside Nashville nearly 3 years ago. The jury's decision, handed down late Tuesday after a week-long trial, marks the latest development in a case that has been closely watched by conservative groups of unfairly targeting abortion opponents by using the 1994 federal law designed to protect abortion clinics from obstruction and threats. Reproductive rights supporters counter the law known as the Freedom of Access to Clinic Entrances, or the FACE Act. We have done an episode about this. We've had Kristen come on and talk about this because we know other people who are currently sitting in prison now for the same thing. It is more critical than ever to shield abortion providers from violence. This is what this article is saying. At issue is a 2021 blockade held outside the reproductive clinic in Mount Tennessee in Nashville nearly a year before the U.S. Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade. The event was organized by anti-abortion supporters who used social media to promote and live stream actions that they hoped would prevent the clinic from performing abortions, according to the court documents. Prosecutors say participants stationed themselves throughout the office building where the Caffrey Free Health Clinic was located, and later several began recording themselves leading a rescue, a term known amongst anti-abortion activists as dissuading women from obtaining abortion. Prosecutors added that videos from the day showed people blocking the entrance and others attempting to engage with police as a delay tactic. Around 20 people attended the blockade. While a federal jury initially indicted 11 people who participated, 6 were convicted, and those are Chester Gallagher, Paul Vaughn, Heather Idoni, Calvin Zastro, Coleman Boyd, and Dennis Green. They face up to 10 and a half years of prison and fines up to $260,000. Their sentence hearings will take place July 2nd. Quote, these defendants knowingly chose to violate laws they disagreed with. The jury's verdict today is a victory for the law of rule in the country and a reminder that we cannot pick and choose what laws we follow. The attorneys representing the defendants said they plan on appealing the convictions. The legal team has described the 2021 demonstration as a peaceful, life-affirming gathering and accused the Federal Justice Department of prosecuting pro-life activists ever since the Supreme Court's landmark of 2022. That there have been, if I can find those, there have been data to show that they have ramped up things against pro-lifers. Yeah. We can talk about it a little bit. This was a peaceful demonstration by entirely peaceful citizens. Let me tell you what they are going to 10 and a half years and facing $260,000 for doing. This is what they're doing. This is what they did, everyone. It was filled with prayer, hymn singing, and worship, oriented toward persuading expecting mothers not to abort their babies. Before Roe was overturned, the Justice Department oversaw just a handful of FACE Act violations. In 2021, just 3 cases involving 3 defendants were charged. In 2020, the agency handled just 1. Listen to this. By 2022, that number jumped to 11 cases involving 29 defendants. Last year, there were 10 cases and 22 defendants. So there has been an uptick. And once again, I want to just read, like, they're going to get 10 and a half years of prison. They're faced up to 10 and a half years of prison for peaceful, life-affirming gathering. And they prayed, sang hymns, and worshipped, as well as persuaded mothers to not abort their babies. Whereas we heard from the gentleman who tried to poison his wife with an abortion medication, 7 times, and he is getting 180 days in jail. How crazy is that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that we all know to some degree that we're being persecuted, because we know that this isn't just this is a spiritual battle. Like, we are being persecuted, but I think that it's really telling how drastically different it is, and how any reasonable, logical person, if this wasn't pro-life or pro-choice, if this was someone on, that had tried to kill his child versus someone who is praying, right? Like, if it had nothing to do with, like, politicalness, like, this would be unthinkable. It'd be the opposite.
Yeah.
It's just, I mean, I'm not super surprised just because we see this, but I am surprised at how drastic the difference is and how they're getting away with this,
Yeah, I agree. I think this is just the time that we live in. I think it's very important to stay, as people say, prayed up and Bibled up. We need to be reading our Bibles. We need to be praying, and you do need to be gathering with a body of believers, doing something. This is a time, like, we really need to focus on relationship with God, because this is kind of the direction we're transitioning into. And it is, I mean, such a stark difference is startling. And I am kind of surprised that more people aren't talking about this. Which, once again, I hate saying that. Like, why isn't everybody talking about this? But it is kind of surprising that, like, even pro-choice just have to realize that, like, this is a little out of hand.
Right.
Like, this
is
getting, and I don't, right, to say the least. And I don't want to, I believe Repeal the FACE Act. And I'm not saying that this should happen, but, like, 2 years in prison and 180 days in jail, still crazy stark difference. But, like, makes a little bit more sense for praying, for singing hymns. Like, if we think, just even using, like, your logic, like, praying and singing hymns gives you 10 and a half years in prison.
Yeah, now, it's obvious it's another motive. If it was praying and singing hymns for anything else, nobody would look twice,
Right. And, like, if it was, and they were in there and then they started stabbing people, okay, sure, lock them up. Like, that makes sense. But just standing and, like this is just so crazy. And I think this also just reminds you, I also don't want people to hear this and get, like, scared, because, like I said, we're going to do Love Life.
It's, like, that's the other thing. Like, it could, this could have been any of us.
Yes. And but I don't want you to be scared. Like, I understand why it's scary. I don't want anyone to feel scared, because at the end of the day, like, what is right is right. And I will say this, like, obviously this would never happen at Love Life, because that's not how Love Life does things. But let's say you do feel called to this and you're getting nervous. There are organizations that you can work with. They have lawyers on, if something like this happens, they have lawyers on speed dial. Like, it is, like, if this is something that you feel called to do, it is absolutely possible. But if it's not something you feel called to do, you can support those who do. These people are going to need, obviously they already have lawyers and stuff, but, like, they might need, like, other supplies. There's people who we know that are in jail now. POW at PAAU, on Instagram. Yeah, they have ways that you can reach out to people who are already in jail and you want to, like, email them or whatever. So there's a lot of things that we can do to, like, help support people who are doing this. But, like, this is something that I think should not necessarily be in the back of your mind, because I really don't want people to be like, oh, I can't do any pro-life stuff, I'm going to go to jail. Like, I don't want you to feel that way. But I do want you to recognize, like, that we live in a time where, like, sometimes doing the truth and doing the right thing is hard. Sometimes you have
persecution, and early Christian, like, we also live in a time where, like, people are paralyzed by fear, especially ever since COVID. But it's like, like, early Christians were killed for, like, tens of thousands of them were killed for standing up for their beliefs. That doesn't mean we stop standing up for our beliefs. That doesn't mean we stop doing what's right.
Correct.
It just means that we are being persecuted. And people are like, oh, you can't say you're being persecuted. Like, Christians in the Middle East are being, okay, yes, I understand they are. This is persecution. This is modern day persecution. Sending a pro-lifer to jail for 10 years is modern day persecution.
Right. And reason why I'm saying, and because we know this is happening, the reason why I'm saying you got to stay in your Bible, you got to stay, prayed up and like with other believers. The reason why I'm saying that is because it's not going to change. Like, I think another misconception we have with Christianity, and then we got to wrap it up, but another misconception we have with Christianity is like, oh, I'm a Christian now, so, everything's going to be better. Like, oh, the sky's going to be brighter. And sure, but like, the Bible tells us we're going to be persecuted. The Bible tells us we're going to have challenges. So the idea isn't to like get rid of those challenges. The idea is to have God walk with us in these challenges, to have him help us be in our heart, to change us so that when we are persecuted, so when, these people are in jail, sure, I cannot imagine going to jail. That sounds like one of the worst fates imaginable. Okay. I like, that just sounds awful. So I'm sure they're having a tough time, but ideally, because they have read their Bibles, because they have been prayed up, because they have good community, they're able to get through it with God by them, and it's not the absolute end of the world. And I'm sure they're like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Just like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay, so that is today's stories. A good mix of pop culture. Yeah, it was a lot. We're at an hour 15. I'll try to do the outro real quick. But mixture of pop culture, mixture of pro-life news. Let us know any of your thoughts. Let us know about Super Bowl, Grammys, if you liked any of the outfits of the Grammys, if you kind of got the vibe of classicness. Let us know, how do you feel about the idea of like, it's women empowerment to kill your children. Mm-hmm. Also, let us know, had you like the Texas man and then these pro-lifers that have been jailed, do you think this is the trend, like how society's going to be trending now? Do you think that these are just like weird one-offs? Do you think that like this is just if you have ideas of like, okay, how should we fix this, anything like that, let us know in the comments. I'll also add some questions on the Spotify. Savannah, anything you want to add, anything cool coming up that you want to invite people to?
I don't know. I didn't think about it.
Sorry.
You're good. I mean, in March, the Supreme Court is hearing the abortion pill case, so I'm sure, keep an eye out. I'm sure there's going to be stuff going on in regards to that. And then in June, there's going to be the Celebrate Life Day, which is the anniversary of the Dobbs decision. I don't know if I'm going to be there because I'm due in May. So if the baby comes beginning of May, I'll probably be there. If baby comes end of May, probably not. Who knows, though? Don't tell women you can't do things. So,
amen to that.
So we'll see. But anyway, just keep keep updated. My social media is at sav.speakslife. And I always post what's going on there. So that'll be great. But anyway, this was a wonderful episode.
Yeah, I'm really glad you came on. Thank you so much.